Let's talk to David Paul. He's the MD of VectorVest UK. Very good morning to you, young David.
Good morning.
Right, the title of your presentation today, 5 trades, speculative trades. I like that for the summer. But before we get into those 5 ideas, let's talk about the market timing on the first slide. The UK market timing, if you've watched this before, you know that we get basically a signal on the short term and the long term. What's the reading at the moment?
Well, the long-term trend is up, and it's been up since the 17th of April. The short-term trend is down, and our advice is that we sit in our hands and wait. Waiting's an awful lot more difficult to do than it would seem.
But it saves you money, right, in theory?
But to sit and wait for the long-term trend to turn up whenever that should be. Market's down a little bit this morning, I believe, but nevertheless, sooner or later, I believe there'll be another burst on the upside. I'm waiting for that.
Understood. Okay, let's have a look at the US market timing. What's the picture here?
Well, the US market timing in the short term, a short-term trend is down, the long-term trend is up, exactly the same as the UK.
Right.
What I've done here, I put this chart up. It's a weekly chart over the last 3 years, and the market has broken out of a symmetrical triangle that's been in process for most of this year, 2018. And I put on the MACD indicator, and the MACD is showing significant, what technicians refer to as reverse divergence. And reverse divergence is a very positive signal. So I remain, I think we could quite easily go sideways over the summer, but I remain quite positive about this market. Now,
right.
The founder of VectorVest, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Bart Toledo, has got a fundamental model of the US market, which looks at earnings, it looks at interest rate, looks at inflation, and it's something he's been working at for 30, 35 years. And he believes that we are in a stage 4 bull market still. So my technical evidence based on the weekly chart and his fundamental evidence are still pointing to at least the last kick in this bull market that started when I had hair, it seems, back in March 2009. It's been going a long time. So I believe, and from Dr. Toledo's fundamental model, we believe that there's still a kick in this market.
Understood. Okay, let's whiz through the 5 ideas for people's consideration. Let's kick off with the first one, Genel Energy.
Well, first of all, the charts are on my normal format. The candlestick chart speaks for itself. The green thick line above the candlestick chart is the VectorVest valuation, and the blue line study in the window below the price is earnings per share growth, and it's that earnings per share growth that's in fact causing the price to go up the page. Earnings per share is the engine that drives the share price, Genel Energy has been one of our best performers. I think all VectorVest subscribers have had that run up the page. It was our top stock for many months. It's pulled back into that little triangle.
Yep.
Certainly if the general market moves on the upside and it breaks out of the little triangle, then I think that there's quite a nice percentage move in that share up the page. It's charting what technical analysts would call a pennant. Some technical analysts who subscribe to the works of a guy called Richard Wyckoff would call it a spring. And that's a very positive pattern if it breaks on the upside. So looking at that.
Understood. Let's move on to plus 500, spread betting firm.
Well, plus 500, I've been talking about on your show for about 18 months now. When I first mentioned it, Zach was sitting in the chair and his eyebrows went up in his normal fashion when I spoke about it. But it's gone up the page very strongly. And it's gone sideways. As you can see, it's significantly below the VectorVest valuation. During that sideways run over the last month or two, the earnings per share is rising, and invariably that causes a share to break up the page. So I think that when the general market moves up the page, we move back to a up situation, the short-term trend up, the long-term trend up. I think that plus 500 can move strongly here. It's still on a buy recommendation in VectorVest, so if you'd bought it months and months ago, you'd still be holding on to it.
Understood. Okay, let's move on to Hollywood Bowl.
Well, Hollywood Bowl was revalued by VectorVest about 6-7 months ago as the earnings came in. It's now in a long-term uptrend. A few days ago, it pulled back to that uptrend and was aggressively accumulated at support. Now that's normally the sign of some very smart people at work. So it pulled back a little bit on Friday. I think that you can probably wait for the general market to turn up, but it looks to me as if there's a lot more legs in Hollywood Bowl.
Okay, so let's go to Taptica.
Well, Taptica is a share that I did really well in. I talked about it on here on many occasions. And there were some great swing trades in Taptica. And then, unfortunately, one of them didn't work, and it pulled back very aggressively. And the Fib scholars, having a look at the chart, will see that it was accumulated over a period of about 3 months at a 78% retracement, a very, very important Fib retracement level. And it broke out of that accumulation area very strongly over the last couple of days. I think that we should wait maybe for a little bit of a pullback, wait for certainly for the sentiment of the general market to improve. But I think that there's a strong run up, and we could easily get up to the £6 area on Taptica.
Understood. And let's wrap up with Griffin Mining.
Well, Griffin Mining, everybody at VectorVest has had a cracking run in Griffin Mining. We've been talking about it for a year now. It's still significantly undervalued. It is a gold mining operation and zinc mining operation in China. The gold price, in my view, is at an incredibly important level.
Yeah.
And it bounced off that level. That level is, for technicians listening, is a 78% retracement of the last weekly range. Very, very important level. Now, on Thursday, it bottomed out. And on Friday, it had a nice up day. This morning, it's pulled back a little bit. But in the pullback in gold, which was quite severe over the last 6 weeks, Griffin Mining has gone sideways. So if that level in gold holds, I think that there's a nice percentage move in Griffin Mining from here. Again, it's charting a Wyckoff spring. And if we were to see it break up the page and break through those last few highs over the last month or two, then I think that there's a nice 30% move in that particular market. I'm still holding it, and I've been holding it for quite a long time, and I think most VectorVest subscribers are still holding it as well. But I think there's another push, strong push up in Griffin Mining.
Potential. Okay, and let's just wrap up. Important numbers. If you like any further detail, David's email address there, david.paul@vectorvest.com.
Yes, and I'm running a full Saturday session this Saturday coming, the 30th of June, on VectorVest in central London. If anybody's interested, you go to vectorvest.co.uk, click on events, and you should see it.
On that note, David,
thank you, Mus.